The more humanity evolves, the more we feel threatened by our own creativity, or should I say, destructivity. Ever since the term robot came into being when Karel Čapek invented it for his play Rossum's Universal Robots, we have been obsessed with the concept and what they could be used for. But science fiction is a fertile ground for those less than perfect outcomes, such as the destruction of the entire human race by robots. From time-traveling robots to kitchen appliances on the craze, stay tuned to number 1 for a good glimpse of what the human race just might have in store. Number 10. They Live. To kick off our list, here's a movie that many consider sleazy and badly done, but it's actually a masterpiece. Well, in its own category probably, but definitely a masterpiece. With the legendary director John Carpenter behind the camera, it was clear from the start that the audience was in for a hell of a ride. And a ride it was. Imagine a world where robots don't attack people, they don't fight us, they don't wage war against us, but they completely control us. Yes, that's right, the robots are in control, but in a non-violent way. The premise of this movie, not to reveal too much, is that the robots have taken over our planet and we're not even aware of it. In a strange case of pure luck, our protagonists come across a pair of sunglasses with special power to reduce light and reveal robots that are among us. When you look through the glasses, you see robot-like features on the faces of some people, which means that we as humans are being controlled without even being aware of it. This is an amazing movie because while it's tons of fun, it manages to feel frightening as well, and it works both as a sci-fi film and as social satire. Number 9. Robocop. Although Robocop himself, or maybe itself, couldn't be characterized as bad, the whole premise of the groundbreaking movie is pretty crazy. The story revolves around Alex Murphy, a Detroit policeman in the not-so-distant future who gets gunned down by a gang of criminals, and then saved by a completely new medical procedure. He ends up as a human, or what's left of human, operating in a robot skeleton. Yes, I know what you're thinking, just like Darth Vader. Well, at first, Murphy doesn't remember anything from his past, and he operates on the streets saving people from dangerous situations and fighting crime. But eventually, he regains his memory and becomes more and more human. The real danger that this movie implies, however, is the corporate aspects of robotics. As the film progresses, we find out how a corporation run by soulless cash grabbers, I believe that's their technical term, develops a new type of robots which aren't planned for police work, but instead as a weapon to be sold to terrorists worldwide. Of course, since this is a good cop movie, this whole scheme doesn't come to fruition, but the danger of selling robots as weapons in the future lingers on. Number 8. Maximum Overdrive. What would happen if machines came to life and started terrorizing the human population? Well, this is exactly what this 1986 movie deals with. Inspired by one of the short stories from his first short story collection, the famous writer Stephen King decided to take the helm and direct this adaptation himself. Although Maximum Overdrive has, at times, a campy, lighthearted, and even comical tone, the premise is nonetheless bone-chilling, which is totally expected from the master of horror, Mr. King. The idea is that the Earth passes through the tail of a comet traveling the universe, and as a result of that, all inanimate objects suddenly become alive and behave destructively towards humans. Drawbridges suddenly raise, ATMs start offending their customers, vending machines turn homicidal, and that's just to name a few. Include big trucks in this, and you pretty much have the definition of all hell breaking loose. Considering that this movie came out years before we added the internet to things, it's pretty amazing to see what it predicted. Who knows what could happen once the software in our home appliances decide to start running wild? Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Number 7. Westworld. If you've seen the TV show Westworld, you've probably become an instant fan, and it's no wonder that it became an instant hit. It's masterfully done, and the acting, led by Anthony Hopkins, is superb. But did you know that this TV show was inspired by the 1973 film of the same name? Yes, the original Westworld came as a dystopian warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. And do you know what else about this movie is interesting? It was directed and written by none other than Michael Crichton. Yes, the author of Jurassic Park. But Jurassic Park was published in 1990, and the original idea for an amusement park running wild and killing its visitors came from Westworld. And the idea was nothing short of amazing. In the film Westworld, Michael Crichton asks this simple question: what if we get lost in a reality that we create for ourselves? Eerie, right? The famous actor Yul Brynner played an android on a killing spree. Again, the dangers of creating sentient automatic beings is extremely dangerous if we cannot control the consequences. Number 6. Terminator. This list simply wouldn't be complete without this movie. Terminator didn't start it all, but it's definitely groundbreaking. Back in 1984, no one expected it. And once it hit the big screens, no one expected it to become such a big hit. But it did. And it was definitely the casting of Arnie that gave it that extra flair. The premise is very interesting and engaging because it added something that not many films had up to that point: the idea of time travel. Very few movies beforehand had really addressed the whole time travel concept. The scary part comes when you realize that the robots come from not the present, but from the future. The future in which they dominate the planet, trying to destroy what is left of the human race. Sarah Connor tries to save herself from the deadly robots coming after her in an attempt to change the course of history. This movie completely changes our perception of robots and the future awaiting us. It will be even further developed in the sequel. Number 5. Terminator 2. And here comes the sequel. I know it may seem like cheating because we shouldn't include two movies of the same franchise here, but it simply had to happen. Terminator 2 is an amazing movie and an amazing sequel. It works so well because it didn't fall into the same trap as numerous sequels before and after. It didn't just retell the same story from the original. Sure, the overall concept is there, but it feels like a different movie and it has 10 times the action. The thing that made Terminator 2 work is probably the introduction of the villain robot, the T-1000, played brilliantly by Robert Patrick. And it is the worst thing that can happen: a shape-shifting robot. It can assume the shape and the looks of the person it kills, which makes it even more dangerous, because you don't know where it's going to pop up next. The idea that we might have those types of robots in the future is so petrifying that I hope our scientists know what the heck they're doing. Otherwise, prepare for a full-scale war with the robots. Yikes. Number 4. IRobot. A robot may not injure a human being, or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given to it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. These are the famous 3 laws of robotics, coined by the famous science fiction author Isaac Asimov. IRobot is one of his short stories that deals with the subject of robots and humanity, and in 2004, a movie of the same name was made, with Will Smith in the title role. The idea is very interesting. A robot decides to save a police detective from a car crash instead of a little girl, because his survival is more likely than the girl's, statistically speaking. When a famous scientist dies in what seems to be a suicide, suspicion arises that things may not be as peachy as they appear on the surface. The concept of robots helping humans is seriously undermined when we realize that there are those robots among them who are able of their own judgment, which may contradict the 3 laws. Both a warning and a study of the potential downsides of robotics. A must-see. Number 3. Transformers. What's better than robots coming from the future and fighting with the humans? Robots coming from outer space to fight for humans. Transformers is one of the best robot-themed franchises of all time. It all started with a cartoon series back in the 80s, but then it spread onto numerous movies, grossing enormous amounts of money worldwide. When it comes to sci-fi, this is definitely one of the most successful franchises that's ever hit the big screen. The idea is quite simple, but maybe that's precisely why the whole thing became so popular. Autobots and Decepticons. 2 types of robots crash land on the planet Earth and remain entombed there for millions of years. They emerge in 1984 and start fighting one another. Decepticons in the attempt to destroy everything in their way to find a new energy source, and Autobots to try to protect the new world they are in and the entire human population. The idea of 2 super races fighting for the fate of the humans reflects the ancient mythologies, where superior beings such as gods and goddesses fought in a very similar way. Number 2. Metropolis. Now we're entering dangerous territory. The final two entries are the films that have probably, each in its own right, taken the humans-robots problem to a whole new level. Metropolis is a 1927 film by the acclaimed German director Fritz Lang, who later immigrated to the United States because of the Nazi regime. In America, Lang made several great pictures, but none of them surpassed this masterpiece. To this day, Metropolis is considered one of the best movies ever made, as well as one of the best sci-fi films of all time. In the year of 2026, the not-so-distant future now, the world is divided between the ruling and the working class, and oppression is all around. Without revealing too much, a scientist creates a robot to replace his deceased wife and wants to take over the whole city, and maybe, eventually, the world. This is a work of art on every possible level, from art direction to themes that it touched upon. You really have to see it to realize exactly how powerful it is. Literally every sci-fi film that followed Metropolis had to borrow something from it, at least to a certain extent. Number 1. AI, Artificial Intelligence. This movie started out as a concept developed by Stanley Kubrick because he was planning on filming it. However, eventually, Kubrick changed his mind and gave the movie to Steven Spielberg to make it his own. The future is distant, but the problems humans have are so close to our current situation. The planet is not overpopulated because global warming caused many coastal cities to be plunged underwater. And there's a new type of robots, mecha. They can feel and think much like humans. And they resemble humans in almost every way. This type of robot is so advanced that in the end, they manage to do the unthinkable. They outlive humans on planet Earth. This is so frightening and devastating as a concept that it leaves the viewer wondering about the future of our race and the way artificial intelligence as a concept is going. Tell us what you think about the future of robots in the comments below, and thanks for watching!